Okay, so we're going to start now, and we're going to go through the introduction of the first game that we're going to make. So we're first going to watch this.
Welcome to the very first unit of this course, where you will begin your journey creating with code. In this unit, we will create a driving simulator prototype where the user can steer a vehicle down a road to avoid obstacles in its path, or crash into them if that's more their liking. As you create this prototype, you will learn the programming fundamentals to implement player control. That is giving the player the ability to control an object in the world you've created. To accomplish this, you'll have to take some input from the player. Maybe they're pressing the arrow keys, using the mouse or a joystick, and translate that into some action in the 3D environment. I probably don't have to explain to you how important player control is. Pretty much every game or interactive experience ever made gives the player control over something in the environment. Otherwise, the player wouldn't have much to do. So whether you're floating a balloon up and down in the air from a side view, moving a character side to side from a top-down view, or rolling a ball around from a third-person view, all of these draw on the same foundational programming techniques. So you'll be able to take this element of player control and apply it to your own projects in all kinds of interesting ways. So let's start creating.
Okay, so now that we finished that video, now after that, I'm going to show you what the end product actually looks like. Okay, so what it would end up looking like is this. So all the crates are lined up here in Unity, as you can see. And in the next few lessons, you'll learn how to move around in Unity and like use all the stuff. Like you can just explore the place, the sky, and there's the skybox here. And the game would turn up as it was in the video. So it would then make it so that your car will move forward. You would be able to turn it and move backwards like that. And then you could crash into the obstacles or just go around them. And you can reverse, go forwards and backwards whenever you want to, and just like turn on the spot. So that's how the finished game is supposed to look. We're now going to move on to the next video. So we're first going to look at the overview for it and see what we're going to do in it.
We are about to begin working on our very first prototype, where we'll make a vehicle that can drive down the road. To do this, we will create a project for the first time, use the Unity interface for the first time, import assets for the first time, and navigate the 3D environment for the first time. That's a lot of firsts, but don't worry. We're going to take things one step at a time. By the end of this lesson, you will have your first prototype with a vehicle and obstacle set up on the road. As you know, Unity is a powerful professional program with a ton of functionality. So when you open it for the first time, you may feel a little overwhelmed by all of the windows and buttons and icons, but with a little time and practice, you'll be able to move around this interface with your eyes closed. After you're familiar with the layout, one of the most important skills we'll work on is navigating and positioning objects in the scene view. The scene view is the interactive environment where you can design your world in 3 dimensions. When you put your vehicle in the scene, for example, you can move it side to side on the x-axis, up and down on the y-axis, or forward and back on the z-axis. You can also rotate objects around each one of these axes, scale them on each of these axes. You can even view your object on each axis. You can think of Scene View as the movie set for your project, where you can see all the behind the scenes stuff that the audience won't necessarily see. And just like a movie set, you have a camera in your scene that you can position to show the player exactly what you want. In Unity, what you can see through the camera is called the game view, since it's the view that the player will have during the game. So for this prototype, we wouldn't want the camera here or here, so we'll position it behind and above the vehicle, giving the player a clear view of the road ahead. And to make all that happen, I'll see you in Unity.
Okay, so that's an overview of what we're going to do. So first you need to make the course folder as it's going to show in the video. And there's one very important thing that you need to understand about this. Watch, then do. Don't watch it and try to do it while it's playing, because then you have to keep on pausing and going back if you make a mistake on it. So watch, then do it.
Let's get started creating our very first Unity project. Now remember to watch me before you do this yourself. Now up first, just for some organization, I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop where I'm going to be saving my Create with Code project. So if I right click on the desktop, I'm going to select New and create a new folder. Then I'm going to rename this folder Create with Code Carl D. That way I know that this is where all my projects are going to go. So if I press enter, now I have a folder on my desktop where I'm going to be saving all of my Create with Code projects. The next thing I'm going to do is create a new empty project called Prototype 1 on the correct version of Unity through Unity Hub. However, since Unity Hub is changing all the time, we want to make sure you have the most up-to-date instructions. So I'm not going to demonstrate that in the video. Instead, I want you to very carefully follow the instructions below to create your project. So just make sure when this video is over, you follow the instructions below the video to make your project. I'm just going to skip forward when the project is already made. And here you can see my new Unity project for Prototype 1. And you can see here the Unity interface. Now, if this is your first time seeing it, it may be a little intimidating with all of the different windows and buttons. But don't worry, we'll go through it in detail very soon. So for now, this is where I'll stop and let you create your own Unity project. Make sure to follow the steps below to create a folder to save all of your Unity projects, and then create your very first Unity project through Unity Hub.
Okay, so now I'm going to follow the instructions below here. So then I would just go to the desktop by just taking all this away. And I'm just going to check the instructions again. And it said right click and then press create new folder and then name it Create with Code. So if I go new, new folder. Then I'll name it create with code. With no spaces so it isn't confused. Then I would go back and look at the instructions, and then I would create a new Unity project. And then I would name the project prototype 1 and set the file location to the new create with code folder. So I'm going to do those 2 steps and make a new project. So I'm then going to name it prototype 1. Except I've already named one of the projects that. So in my case, I'm just going to put 2. Or just A. Then I would make it so that the location would go to But since this doesn't show up, I'm actually just going to just move that. So I'm going to actually just delete this and go to the Files app. And I'm going to create it in the local disk. And I'm going to name this one create with code. And then when I go back here, I then look through them to the local disk. And find the create with code folder and select it. And then the last step says then create, then wait for Unity to open your project. So I'm then going to do that. So as you can now see, it's loaded. And then we would stop there and move on to the next part.
Now that we've created our first Unity project, let's start getting our scene set up by importing the project library. Now remember, watch me before you do this yourself. In order to download our project files to get started, we'll need to use the download link in the instructions below this video. If I click on that link, it will download a zip of the starter files right onto my computer. So let's see where I saved those files. On my desktop, where I created that new Create with Code folder for my projects, you can see here I've already downloaded the project library for Prototype 1. So all I need to do is extract this folder to get the assets I'm going to use for my project. So I'm just going to right click on Prototype 1, extract all, and then it's going to select a location, which in this case is the folder that I'm already working in. So I'm going to extract, and you can see that it extracted pretty quickly. And if I go into this new Prototype 1 direct download folder, you can see here that I have the Prototype 1 starter files, and it's of type Unity package file. So this is what I'm going to use to import into my project to get set up. If I head into Unity, I'm going to go to the Assets button on my menu, go to Import Package, and then Custom Package. Now I need to find that Unity package file that I just extracted. So I'm going to go to that Create with Code folder on my desktop, go down into the Prototype 1 direct download folder, and find the Prototype 1 starter files, select it, and open it. You can see that Unity prompts you with a new window asking you if you want to import all of these different files, and we're going to need all of these for our project, so I'm going to import at the bottom of the window. Now let me show you what Unity just did. So if I get started in Unity, down in the project window down here, you can see that there's an assets folder that has a course library folder and a scenes folder. So the course library folder is what was just added into our project. And if I click into this folder, you can see that there are some additional folders for some of the props and objects that are going to be in our scene when we get started. So for example, I could go to the obstacles folder, and you can see here a list of different obstacles. You can actually use this little slider at the bottom of the project window if you want to actually see what the models of those objects look like. So now you can see we have all these different props that we can use in our scene, like a rock or a barrier or a traffic cone. Now I'm going to show you what this actually looks like inside of Unity. So if I go back to my assets folder by selecting it on the left-hand side of the project window, I'm going to go into the scenes folder, and inside of my scenes folder, I have a sample scene, which is actually what's currently open right now, which has nothing inside of it. Or I can open up this Prototype 1 scene by double-clicking on it. And now inside of this Prototype 1 scene, you can see that it pops up inside of this scene window here in the center of Unity. And if I just use my mouse while it's hovering over this scene window, right-click and hold, I can actually move the camera that's in the scene view to see around this virtual world that we've created for you. So you can see here we have this long road. We have some of those mountains in the background. We have a pretty cool sky with stars in it. And so this will be the scene that we'll start building our first Unity project in. Now, since this will be our main scene, we actually don't need this sample scene anymore. So I'm just going to right-click on sample scene and then delete it, and delete the selected asset. So now the only thing that's in my Unity project is that Prototype 1 scene. So what you're going to do is download the starter files for the project by using
This is the part in the video where he just goes over it again so that it's clear. So I'm just going to let this play again.
the link in the instructions below this video, and then you're going to extract that zipped folder that we gave you, and you can double check to make sure that inside of that folder are the Prototype 1 starter files. Once you've unzipped those starter files, you're going to head back into Unity, go to the Assets button in the top menu, go to Import Package, and import a custom package. From there, you're going to find the folder where you extracted those starter files. So in my case, on my Create with Code Carl D folder on my desktop. And you're going to find the Prototype 1 starter files Unity package file. So you're going to select it and then open it. You'll then be prompted with an import window. So in my case, since I already imported these assets, I don't have to worry about it, but you'll see a long list of different files. And at the bottom right of the window, you're going to click import. And that might take a few minutes. Once you've done that, you can head over to the project window down in the bottom of Unity, select the assets folder and go into your scenes folder. You're going to double click on prototype 1 to open it inside of your project. And then you can just right click and delete the sample scene because we won't be using it. And then if you want to explore the virtual world that we've created, you can just hover your mouse over the scene view here, right click and hold the right mouse button, and then you can move your mouse to move your camera in this virtual world. So now it's your turn.
Okay, so then you would also be able to just check here. So I'm now going to download the prototype 1 starter files. And then I'm going to open it when it's done. And then then I'm going to need to unzip it. So then I'm going to import it into the project. So then I would open the output folder of it. So that's the prototype 1 and extract it. So that would be it there. Then I'm going to open the blank Unity project. Go to Assets on the top and import the package, which would be custom package. So then I would import the prototype 1 starter files. And then this is all that is importing. You can just ignore all of this and just press import. And then it will start importing everything. Okay. And this is how it's going to look here. I just had my layout changed. So it's going to look like this. And then in the course library, as it shows, there's all the stuff like the obstacles. And I have this here so that I can actually see them. So I have it like that so I can see them. And then you go to scenes and go into the sample scene. Then you go into the prototype 1 scene as the sample scene is a blank one. Then you would just delete the sample scene as you don't need it anymore. And then you'd be able to just look around in it. And the mouse can actually go across the screen like that so that you can just see more. I'll just come back across the screen. Like that. And now we're going to move on to the next one. And then we're going to start adding everything to the scene.
So now that we've added in the starter assets for our project, we're gonna go and add a vehicle into our scene. Make sure to watch me do this before you try it yourself. And just as a heads up, from here on out in these videos, I'll be using an older version of Unity. As you can see, the icons look slightly different, but otherwise everything is gonna work pretty much the same. What I'm gonna do is in the main section of our project window, I'm going to double click on vehicles. And that'll open up that folder, and that'll show us all of the different vehicles that we can use in our scene. I like the red truck over here. I think it looks really cool. So
I'm going to left click on that vehicle, drag it into our hierarchy on the left side of Unity. When I let go, you can see that our vehicle has now been added into this large area in the center called our scene view. So all of our assets in our assets folder are what we use to populate our scene with different objects like our trucks. If we wanted to add some cool environmental props, maybe some boxes or trees, mountains, whatever we want to add, that's all stored in our assets folders, and then we can drag and drop them into our hierarchy to add them to our scene. Now the hierarchy actually keeps track of all of the different objects that are currently there. So we have our camera, we have a light, we have some environment, and then we have our vehicle that we just added. Now to really see our vehicle and experience the scene view that allows us to visualize everything that's happening in our game, what you can do is hover over the scene view with your mouse. If you hold the right mouse button, right click, and then you can actually move using the W, A, S, and D keys on your keyboard. So if I press W, I can zoom in. If I press S, I actually fly backwards. If I press A, I fly to the left. If I press D, I fly to the right. So you can use all of these in tandem, and you can actually move your mouse while you're flying around, so you can see all around your scene. Now, I have a problem here. I've gotten myself lost. I actually don't know where I am. I can see these nice mountains, though. So, in your hierarchy, if you make sure that your vehicle, your truck is selected, you can see it's highlighted in blue, so you know it's selected. If you want to make sure, on the right side of Unity, you can see in your inspector, this actually shows you what the current object is selected, which is our truck. With my mouse now hovering over our scene view, if I press the F key on our keyboard, this will actually focus or frame back in our object that we have selected in our hierarchy. So that's super helpful. Another thing that we can do if we just want to get a 360-degree view, if we want to see all around this truck, we can actually hold down the Alt key on our keyboard. And then with our left click, if we drag to the left or to the right, we can actually rotate around. And what this is actually doing is it's rotating around the center point of our screen, which in this case is our vehicle, because we use our F key to focus on it. So now we can see all around our truck. And then another helpful thing that we can do is if we press the Alt key down and hold it again, we can actually use our right mouse button. And if we click and drag that, if we go to the left, we actually zoom out. And if we go to the right, we can actually zoom in. So using all of these different keys, we can navigate around our scene, focus on different objects, and take a look at them in depth. A really helpful keyboard shortcut to know is the undo action. So, for example, with my vehicle selected, if I accidentally moved that vehicle when I was just trying to navigate around the scene, I can press Ctrl Z or Command Z, and that will undo my most recent action. This is super helpful to know just in case you ever accidentally move something, or say you adjust something and you don't like the way that it's positioned in your world. You can just undo that to set it back. One thing to note is undo will only undo our most recent action. So in order to get this vehicle back to where it started, since I actually changed this object 3 different times, I have to use Ctrl Z or Command Z 1, 2, 3 times, and it will set it backwards. So it's very helpful to remember the undo shortcut on your keyboard. So that way, in case you ever accidentally move something or you just don't like the way that something's positioned, you can just reset it back to what it was before. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab one of your vehicles out of the course library, whichever one you want, left click and drag it into the hierarchy. And then when your vehicle is added to the scene, get used to playing around with all of the different ways that you can navigate your scene view. With your mouse cursor hovering over the scene view, if you hold right click down, you can move your camera around as you move your cursor. If you use the different keys like W, A, S, and D, learn how to move around in the world. Make sure you get some practice in also focusing on your object in case you either get lost or you want a better view. So go into your hierarchy on the left, select your vehicle, with your cursor over the scene view, press the F key on your keyboard so that you can frame or focus in on that object. Play around with rotating around the object, so you can press the Alt key, hold it down, and then press and hold your left click on your mouse, and you can rotate it around your vehicle while it's centered in your scene. And then you can even get some practice in pressing and holding the Alt key, clicking and holding your right mouse button, and then dragging it to the left to zoom out or dragging it to the right to zoom in. So get very comfortable with moving and navigating around your scene, focusing around your vehicle, rotating around it, zooming in and out to get a closer look of it. These are very important things to know to navigate your scene. So the easier it will be to move around your scene and get comfortable with seeing all of your different objects and where they're placed, the easier it will be as you make your game. So go play around with the different navigation keys, and now it's your turn.
Okay, so I'm now going to do that. So if you forgot, the instructions are here, so you can see all of it here. So I'm going to go to my project and go to vehicles. There's other vehicles here, but the intended one is actually this one. So then I'll grab into the hierarchy, and it'll appear here. So then I'd be able to use right click to just like look around, WASD to move. I can still move around like that. And now if I end up like getting lost like this used to happen to me, and I had no idea what to do. Like if imagine this is out of view, I could then select the vehicle and do F to focus on it. And one way to remember is F for focus. So then I could do that. And then I could just go around it like this, like zoom in and out. Or I could just go around with left click and Alt, just going around like that. Or just upside down. And just zooming in and out. It's really useful to get used to these keys so that you know how to like position everything in the world, and you actually like if you get lost like this, like I don't have anything selected, I can't see it. So then it's really helpful. Like I'm completely lost. Well, almost, but then it's really just useful that you know all these and all the shortcuts just going like forward. No, I don't want it there. Because you might accidentally do something really annoying, like you might just fling the car down there, lose it, and then you just do Control Z to select it, and Control Z to get it back to normal, like that. And we're going to stop here now, so that we can then look at what you were able to do.